8 months pregnant, and my husband was forcing me to save his first love son. It was a simple, brutal equation. Their son had a congenital heart defect, and mine was the perfect, unwilling donor. I lay on the hospital bed, my pleas echoing in the sterile room, but he ignored them with a chilling indifference. I was powerless. Forced to watch as he prepared to end my child's life to save another's. Faced with his cruelty, my own heart withered and died. But it was only after I injected a full vial of painkillers into my own veins, embracing death, that I understood. Behind this immediate horror lay a far greater conspiracy. And as a more monstrous truth was unveiled, he, too, would finally pay the price. The city was cloaked in the silence of deep night, but the basement of the Chan villa was ablaze with light. I was strapped to a table of cold steel, my eyes wide with the terror that clawed at my throat as I watched him, a specter in surgical scrubs. Julian. Julian. You monster, what are you doing? He adjusted his surgical gloves with horrifying precision, a chilling, humorless smile twisting his lips. Leo's heart is failing. He can't wait any longer. The one in your belly will make a perfect replacement. I thrashed against my restraints, my voice raw with fury. You bastard, Julian. This is your own child. How can you kill him with your own hands? Another cold laugh. My child? So what? You were never worthy of being the mother of my child. His eyes glinted with a fanatical light. That turned my blood to ice. Why do you think I showed you the mercy of letting you get pregnant? It was always for this. To save Leo. No. Please, no. The baby is innocent. I'm begging you, Julian, let him live. An assistant moved with swift efficiency, plunging a needle into my arm. The anesthetic spread through my veins like a creeping frost, stealing my strength. A single cold tear traced a path down my temple. The scalpel, gleaming under the harsh light, descended upon my swollen belly. I finally closed my eyes in utter despair. My poor, sweet baby. In just 2 more months, you would have been whole. You would have been in my arms. But now, your own father is sacrificing you to save the son he had with his true love. I'm so sorry. Mommy is so sorry. The Chan, the Fei, and the Bell families were old allies. Julian, Serafina Bell, and I, Alara Fei, had grown up together. When we were teenagers, blooming with first love, both Serafina and I fell for Julian. But I was no match for her. Serafina was clever, her words like honey, and she knew exactly how to capture Julian's heart. While they went on sweet dates, I was always the third wheel, the silent observer whose heart withered with a jealousy so potent it was a physical ache. I thought a life with Julian was an impossible dream, but then, the year we graduated from university, everything changed. The Bell family went bankrupt. The arranged marriage between the Chans and the Bells was called off, and Serafina fled overseas. It was then that Julian's father, filled with grim determination, brought him to my family's home to propose. Through a strange twist of fate, I became Julian's fiancée. We married quickly. It was only after the wedding that I learned the truth. His compliance, his quiet acceptance of our union, was all a performance for the sake of his family's business. He didn't just not love me, he unleashed all the resentment he felt for being forced to marry me onto me. He refused to share a bed with me on our wedding night. Then, one evening, he came home drunk. He took me that night, not with love, but with a desperate, punishing force. He was a man possessed, and I was merely an object for his rage and grief. After that night, I was pregnant. For a fleeting, foolish moment, I fantasized that he had finally seen my devotion, that this child would be our bridge. But he retreated back into his cold shell, spending his nights drinking, ignoring me completely. I told myself he was just stressed from work. Then the rumors started. He was still in contact with Serafina. Worse, she had been pregnant when she left, and their son was now a year old. The child, Leo, was born with a congenital heart defect, his fragile life sustained only by Julian's vast fortune. And now, the final, hideous piece of the puzzle clicked into place. He let me carry his child for one reason only, to harvest my baby's heart and save the son Serafina had given him. He treasured the child of his true love as a priceless jewel, while our child, his child, was nothing more than a dose of medicine. I had never imagined a man could be so heartless. Julian's family was in the medical field. He himself was a graduate of medical school, a specialist in cardiac surgery. He was not only the CEO of the city's largest medical conglomerate but also its most brilliant heart surgeon. Serafina's son was incredibly lucky to have a father like him. My son was incredibly unlucky. The anesthetic wore off, and I woke as if from a long nightmare. My hand instinctively went to my stomach, only to find it terrifyingly empty. I strained to look down. My flat abdomen was scarred with 2 rows of dense, black stitches. Julian was pulling off his gloves, wiping his long, elegant fingers with an alcohol wipe over and over again. My breath came in ragged gasps. I lunged up, grabbing his hand. The baby. My baby. His face was a mask of cold stone. He wrenched his hand free with a sneer and dragged over a stainless steel waste bin, its contents slick with blood. My world shattered. Curled inside was a tiny, perfect form, a miniature human being, except for the gaping, empty cavity in its chest where a heart should have been. 1,000 daggers pierced my own heart. Tears streamed down my face. My body trembled so violently I couldn't speak, only a series of choked, guttural sobs. My stomach twisted into a knot of agony, and I retched, vomiting onto the floor. Julian covered his nose in disgust and backed away. I screamed until my throat was raw, a sound of pure, primal grief, until the darkness claimed me once more. When I awoke again, Julian had changed out of his surgical scrubs and into an expensive, tailored suit. In an instant, he had transformed from a white-coated demon into the handsome, powerful CEO everyone envied. He saw I was awake and let out a cold laugh. "Stay put," he commanded, his voice like ice. "I have to move to a different operating room to perform Leo's surgery now." Looking at his unyielding face, I struggled to breathe, my words coming out in a weak gasp. "Divorce. I want a divorce." Julian's expression flickered for a second, then hardened into a sneer. "Divorce? You schemed and plotted to marry me. You think you'd be willing to let go so easily?" The contempt in his eyes was another blade in my already shredded heart. It was his father who had dragged him to my family. It was he who had been so attentive after our engagement, leading me to believe he had finally fallen for me. He had exposed his true colors after the wedding, revealing it was all an act to secure my father's investment in his company. And now, he had the audacity to claim I was the schemer. All my schemes had been genuine acts of love. How had I been so blind? His heart had only ever belonged to Serafina. I had been a fool, clinging to the fantasy that he would one day see my worth. Now I knew. It was impossible. It was all in my head. But I never, ever imagined he would go this far, using me, using our child, as a tool to save his illegitimate son. And after all this, he still had the gall to mock me, to assume I wouldn't leave him. My despair was no longer just for him, it was for myself. "Julian," I whispered, my voice trembling with a newfound resolve. "A divorce, or my death. You choose." He lunged forward, grabbing the collar of my hospital gown, his teeth gritted. "You want to die? It's not that easy. You think your life is still your own?" His voice dropped to a venomous hiss. "Let me be clear. Even between full brothers, a heart transplant isn't a guaranteed success. I will keep you alive. If this heart fails, you will get pregnant again, and again, until it works." He slammed the door, leaving me in a cold, silent hell. He had taken my phone. I tried to run, but 2 nurses stood guard, dragging me back. I was a prisoner in this small, sterile room, my screams unheard. I fainted again. When I came to, a familiar, yet unexpected, figure stood before me. I shot upright, a scream tearing from my throat. "Serafina! What are you doing here? Is the surgery over? Was it a success?" She cast a disdainful look at me, and then she threw her head back and laughed, a sound not of joy, but of shattering glass and pure, unadulterated madness. "Ha ha ha ha. Success? It could never be a success, she shrieked. It was all just a fantasy in that monster's head. I stared at her, uncomprehending. What do you mean? Why couldn't it succeed? Because, she said, her eyes glinting, my son isn't Julian's. I had him with another man behind his back. Hilarious, isn't it? She continued, her voice dripping with venom. He thinks he's my one true love, that I could never forget him. But I stopped loving him years ago. He's the one who won't let go, who insists my child is his, who forced you to get pregnant to save him. He's insane, you know that, right? Her words were like a lightning strike. I grabbed her hand. Then you have to stop him. My baby is already dead. He'll kill your son too. She ripped her hand away, her eyes burning with scorn. No. I want him to watch himself kill 2 children with his own hands. I want him to live with that regret for the rest of his life. Her face contorted with hatred. He claims to love me, but when I was forced to leave the country, why didn't he fight for me? Why didn't he come with me? Instead, he went straight to your house with his father to propose. I hate him. I hate him so much. I was stunned into silence by her crazed rant. I had always envied her, to be loved so deeply by Julian. I never imagined this was how she saw his devotion. What would he feel if he knew? Our tragic love triangle was nothing but a sick joke. I was destroyed by my love for a man who despised me, while the woman he adored hated him with equal passion. But if she hated him so much, why pretend to still care? Why not expose the truth? As I wrestled with these questions, the door burst open. It was Julian. His face was a mask of grief, his eyes filled with a profound pain. He didn't seem surprised to see Serafina. He simply walked to her and buried his face in her shoulder. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It's my fault. The surgery failed. His voice was thick with unshed tears. But don't worry. I put the heart back. We'll wait. I'll make her get pregnant again. We'll try again for our son. Serafina cradled his head, her own eyes filling with tears as she looked at him with what appeared to be deep affection. No, no more, Julian. Promise me. Don't hurt Alara again for our child. Her voice was soft and pleading. Let's give up on this child. I know I can't have any more, but if you want children, we can adopt. Julian's head snapped up. He glared at me, his face twisting into a cold sneer. No. I will never give up. As long as there is a sliver of hope, I will not stop. He pointed a trembling finger at me. Alara. Your greatest value in this life is to get pregnant and provide a heart to save Leo's life. And I will make you do it. I stared in horror at the twisted, emotional performance unfolding before me. For the first time, I realized it wasn't just Julian who was sick. Serafina was far, far sicker. What was her endgame? Was it just revenge for abandoning her? But this path only caused her more pain, and it dragged me deeper into their twisted game. Julian, Serafina, and I, were we fated to torture each other forever? In that moment, I knew. Living in this torment was worse than death. I clenched my jaw, my body trembling. Julian. Using my child's heart will never work. I screamed. Her son isn't even yours. You psychopath, have you truly lost your mind? I thought my words might finally break through his delusion. Instead, he slapped me across the face, the force of it snapping my head back. You idiot, Alara. Did you really think I wouldn't run a blood type and compatibility test before the surgery? He roared. Let me give you a piece of advice. Stop playing dumb and focus on getting healthy. You need to be ready for the next pregnancy. He wrapped his arm around Serafina and led her out. But as she left, she glanced back at me, and in her eyes, I saw a flash of cold, calculating victory. I was completely lost. Who was telling the truth? Were they working together, or were they each playing their own game? Was I, once again, the fool being played? I had fallen into a massive, insidious game. And the only way to escape was to die. Fine, I thought. I will no longer be your pawn. The nurse on duty was dozing in a chair nearby. I lunged for the force stand, grabbed the vial of painkiller, and injected the entire contents into my arm. A wave of weakness washed over me. The room began to spin. An overwhelming drowsiness pulled me under, and in an instant, my consciousness faded. In that final moment, I thought with a sigh, Julian, Serafina, I am dying. Your sick game can't hurt me anymore. There was no pain. Just a sudden, rushing lightness, as if a soul that had been tethered and weighed down for an eternity had finally had its chain snipped. I floated before the bed, looking down at the still form that was once me. A sense of profound relief washed over me. I was dead. I was now just a spirit. The dozing nurse woke, rubbing her eyes. She glanced at the bed, frowned, and walked over. She checked for breath, then felt for a pulse. Her face went white. Doctor! Doctor! The patient's in cardiac arrest. I watched as doctors rushed in, frantically applying defibrillator paddles to my chest. My corpse arched violently, fell back, arched again, and then lay still. The door burst open, and Julian rushed in, panting. He shoved the medical staff aside, his eyes wide with disbelief as he stared at my body. Impossible. This is impossible. It was just a C-section. How could she die? The young nurse who had been guarding me burst into tears. I'm sorry, Mr. Chan. It was my fault. I wasn't watching for a second, and she injected a whole bottle of painkiller. Julian became a man possessed. His eyes blazed red as he let out a primal roar and kicked the nurse to the ground. Ack. What were my instructions? You were to watch her every single second. Give me back Alara. Give me back her life. The other staff, terrified by their usually composed CEO, pulled him away. Mr. Chan, calm down. The First Lady is gone. Beating the nurse will bring her back. Julian threw them off, grabbing the defibrillator himself and shocking my body again and again. The sickening smell of burning flesh filled the air. A doctor finally managed to wrestle the paddles from his grasp. Mr. Chan. Stop. You'll destroy her remains. Watching this scene, a strange sense of satisfaction bloomed within me. So this is what it felt like to watch the one you loved grieve for you. It was intoxicating. Damn it, I thought, startling myself. Have I become a monster too, now that I'm dead? Julian stood over me, his eyes wide and unblinking. Suddenly, he lunged forward again, his hands closing around the neck of my corpse. Alara! Wake up! Stop pretending. I know. You're faking this to punish me. Get up. Get up. You hate me, don't you? You hate that I never loved you, that I called out Serafina's name when I touched you. Get up and hit me. When my body remained limp, he deflated like a punctured balloon. He released his grip and collapsed onto my corpse, sobbing uncontrollably. The medical staff shook their heads, whispering amongst themselves. I floated nearby, a cold, detached observer. Julian, I thought, I truly don't know if you even have a heart. When I was alive, you never showed me a shred of compassion. Who is this performance for now? Yourself? I drifted away from him, towards the waste bin where my child's body had been. It was empty now, scrubbed clean. But I could still feel an agonizing ache where my heart should have been. My poor, nameless baby, who never had a chance to see the world. I searched the room for his spirit, hoping that if I could exist this way, maybe he could too. But there was nothing. I had chosen suicide to escape my pain, so why was my soul still trapped here, forced to watch this farce? Julian's blubbering was disgusting. I flew at him, my spectral fist aimed at his face. But it passed right through him. He seemed to feel something, though. He looked up, his eyes darting around the room. Alara. You can see me, can't you? You're still here. Don't die. Wake up. Just then, the door opened. It was Serafina. She looked at Julian's crazed state with pity and took his hand. Julian. Alara, she's gone. Please don't be like this. She glanced at my corpse, flinching back in fear. Could everyone please step out for a moment? She asked the staff. Julian needs some time. Once they were alone, Julian stumbled into the bathroom, splashing cold water on his face. Serafina approached my body cautiously, her eyes cold and hard. You're pathetic, Alara, she hissed at my corpse. I was going to use you. We were going to put on a show together, make this bastard pay for what he did to us. Both. We were going to ruin him. Why did you give up so easily? Your death has ruined everything. Now I have to do it alone. You're a coward. A fool. I hate you. Her words hit me with the force of a physical blow. I swirled around her, a vortex of spiritual energy, trying to communicate. What do you mean? What was your plan? She suddenly looked up, a glimmer of excitement in her eyes. Alara. You can hear me, can't you? She pointed to a vase on the nightstand. If you can hear me, make that flower move. I focused all my energy and slammed into the flower, making it tremble violently. Serafina's eyes lit up. She leaned close to my body and whispered excitedly. I altered the DNA and blood type reports Julian ran. That's why he was so convinced Leo was his. Then I lied and told him I couldn't have any more children, making him even more desperate to save the only child we could ever have. You were part of the plan, she confessed. I wanted him to watch the surgeries fail, again and again. I wanted him to force you to get pregnant again and again. Providing heart after heart, until my son finally died at his hands. I wanted him to live with the guilt of destroying 2 women for the rest of his miserable life. I know it was selfish to involve you, she admitted, but he destroyed my life. I had to have my revenge. But you died too soon. Now I have to change everything. I'm so angry. And you think I just wanted him to feel guilty? No. I used his trust to steal company secrets and sell them to his competitors. I tricked him into investing billions in sham projects. Just you watch. The Chan Corporation will be bankrupt soon. I want him ruined, guilt-ridden, and left with nothing. I was stunned. I thought Julian's betrayal of me was the ultimate cruelty, but Serafina's hatred ran 100 times deeper. Why? I wailed, my ghostly voice a whisper in her ear. Why do you hate him so much? You only knew him for 2 years, she said bitterly. I was with him long before that. You have no idea what a monster he truly is. Remember that story from university, about the boy who had his eyes gouged out for looking at someone's girlfriend? That was my boyfriend. Julian did that. He paid a fortune to cover it up. I tried to break up with him once. He threatened to slit his own throat with a scalpel. The scar on his neck he told you was from a kite string? He did that to himself. I had to promise I'd never leave him just to keep him from killing himself. I was terrified of him. But eventually, I got used to his possessiveness, his control. I thought that was love. Then my family went bankrupt, and he dumped me without a second thought to marry you for your family's money. The night before I left for America, he found me. He was brutal. He said he wanted me to carry his child, that he would divorce you and come for me after he got the investment. That's when I knew. He doesn't love. He only possesses. He's incapable of love. So, to get my revenge, I found a boyfriend in America and got pregnant. When Julian finally contacted me a year after you were married, my son had already been born and diagnosed with the heart defect. So I told him the baby was his. The rest, you know. Serafina was weeping now. Even as a spirit, I felt a chill run through me. So this was the consequence of Julian's true love. Perhaps I should be grateful he never loved me. I wasn't strong enough to survive it. The bathroom door creaked open. Julian emerged, his face still wet. He looked at Serafina, who had composed herself instantly. Julian, are you feeling better? Sarah. I don't understand. All I asked was for her to have a baby. It's not like she couldn't have more. Why did she have to kill herself? Serafina's expression hardened for a split second before softening into a look of pity. She stroked his face. Perhaps, my love, not every woman loves you as deeply as I do. Not every woman is as strong as I am. Julian's face softened. He gripped her hand. Don't worry. Even though Alara is gone, I will find a match for our son. I'll search the entire world if I have to. Let your people handle it, she murmured. Don't wear yourself out. I can't bear to see you suffer. They handled my death certificate. Soon, I was nothing but a jar of ashes. On the day of my burial, the clear sky suddenly clouded over, and a light rain began to fall. The moment the urn was lowered into the ground, Julian lost control. He threw himself onto the grave, clawing at the fresh mud with his bare hands, his cries tearing through the quiet cemetery. Alara! Why did you die? You shouldn't have left me. How could you be so cruel? I floated next to Serafina. What a pathetic, fake man, I whispered. He never loved me, but he acts as if he's heartbroken. Serafina let out a quiet, humorless laugh. He's not used to losing, she murmured back. But this is just the beginning. Soon, he'll lose everything. Are you sure you can watch that happen? He really did love you. And you loved him. She was silent for a moment. His love was a crushing weight. It was monstrous. I couldn't bear it. When he chose your family's money over me, it could have been a clean break. But he couldn't let go. He came to America, found me with my new boyfriend, and beat him so badly he's still in a hospital bed with brain damage. If he hadn't paid another fortune to make it go away, he'd be in prison. I can't be tied to a man like that for the rest of my life. This is the only way to be free. I fell silent. Perhaps she was right. I didn't have her courage or her cunning. I had chosen the easy way out. She had chosen to make him pay. I didn't know how much of Julian's grief was real. But it didn't matter. My heart had died the moment he cut open my child. After the funeral, I followed them back to the villa. The moment they were inside, Julian collapsed into Serafina's arms, sobbing like a child. Sarah, was I a monster? I married Alara even though I didn't love her. When I had to give you up for the company, do you truly not blame me? I know you had no choice, she cooed, patting his back. Of course I don't blame you. Let's just focus on our future now, okay? Her voice was gentle, but over his shoulder, her eyes were filled with ice and hate. That night, she drew him a bath, tucked him into bed, and then went to the guest room. She knew I was there. Alara, she whispered to the empty room. I'm going back to America in the morning. My revenge begins now. She paused. I know you truly loved him. Will it hurt you to see him die? A cold laugh echoed in my soul. No, I whispered back. My hope for him died long ago. Do what you must. I won't be here much longer anyway. The next morning, Julian woke with a start. He shot out of bed and ran to the guest room. It was empty. He frantically called her phone. It was off. He tore the room apart until he found a note under the lamp. Julian, I'm gone. The child is yours to deal with. Don't look for me. Goodbye forever. As he stood there, stunned, his assistant's call came through. Mr. Chan. You have to get to the office. It's an emergency. When Julian arrived at the Chan Corporation headquarters, the building was surrounded by angry protesters. It took a team of bodyguards to get him inside. All the senior executives were gathered in the top-floor conference room, their faces grim. What the hell is going on? Julian roared. Mr. Chan. It's our suppliers. And our distributors. They're all pulling their contracts and siding with our competitor. Our production lines have shut down. We have no raw materials and no way to sell our products. The stock has plummeted. As they all talked at once, Julian slammed his fist on the table. How long has this been happening? Why was I not told? His assistant, Mark, spoke timidly. Sir, we tried to call. I tried to report to you in person. You refused to see me. You said you were busy with other matters and were not to be disturbed. Just then, the CFO burst in, his face pale with panic. "Mr. Chan. The investment projects. They were all fraudulent. The managers have vanished with the money. We've lost 2 billion. In that moment, Julian finally understood. As if on cue, his phone rang. It was the hospital. "Mr. Chan, the child had an acute cardiac episode. He passed away 10 minutes ago. We need you to come down." The world collapsed around him. He sat frozen in his chair, the phone slipping from his hand and clattering to the floor. After a long moment, he let out a strangled cry and ran from the room, driving like a madman to the hospital. Staring at the tiny, still body on the bed, something in Julian's mind snapped. The fragmented images of his actions, the cruelty, the lies, the obsession, crashed down on him. He clutched his head, screamed, and fled the hospital. 3 days later, Mark broke down the door to Julian's villa. He found Julian's body in the bathtub. He had slit his wrists 3 days prior. The water was black with his blood. On the floor was a scrap of paper, a single sentence scrawled over and over. "Elara, Serafina, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for my 2 dead children. Now, I will atone with my own death." On the day of Julian's burial, I followed the crowd to the cemetery. I thought perhaps I would see his soul, but there was nothing. Perhaps our destinations after death were different. A man like him was surely bound for hell. As the last shovel of dirt covered his grave, a luminous pathway opened in the sky above. A gentle force pulled my soul upwards, into the light. Goodbye, world. I have no regrets left here. I only hope that in my next life, I never meet a man like Julian Chan again. The end.